Okay, there being a quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. Selectman Spencer is finishing up a personal matter, will be here as soon as possible. This meeting is being recorded by the recording we keep for record keeping, and also a video by Mr. Gant. Is there anyone else who wishes to record? Seeing none, we will proceed. Maybe there's an attendance sheet? Maybe not.
No, there is not. This is what I need.
We are going to see.
We know who's here anyway.
3.
Season ticket
We
holders.
can ad lib it.
Is there
We
an
don't have a
actual
list.
copy of this somewhere? I gave away my only.
Which one?
This is my
You say you're
version,
looking, but you have
not the black and white one.
to, you have to write it.
I thought I need enough.
Sign me in.
Okay. 109 North Street?
109. North Street.
No, this is orange, this is mine.
Okay, so our goal for today is to go through the town meeting warrant in as much depth as needed in terms of both form and content, except for the elementary school related issues, which I think at this point merit enough attention that it would be more easy to, and they're complicated, so the goal is that we do everything else today and then we do that. I guess that would be tomorrow.
It's
at,
tomorrow.
3 o'clock. And then obviously the real hope is that for Monday's meeting, when we actually vote the warrant, we would have it done as much work as necessary so that that's a relatively straightforward process.
Should we arbitrarily also schedule another meeting on Wednesday or something of that nature in case we need it after Mondays? I noticed that, obviously, the FinCom is making some final decisions on Monday. We're in the same meeting time, so they may be coming up with stuff or whatever else with some kind of conflict. Just if we schedule it, when people can make it, we can always cancel it, but if we need it, we've got it. And I would hope that Karen would consider the same thing after last year when we had the town clerk coming in to post the meeting so we could do it 48 hours later or something.
When is the deadline for dropping it off at the jail?
22nd.
It is
April
Friday.
5th.
April
It's a
5 at
Friday,
the
it's
printer?
4th.
Oh.
April 4th.
It's, yeah.
April 4th is when we have to drop it off.
Okay.
And when do we have to have it to the town clerk for the ballot?
We're ahead of that, that's after. we
That's
bring it
30
to the
days,
jail.
it's 30 days
I
before
think it's
the
like
election.
35, yeah.
35, rather, 35, it
Yeah.
is 35, so it's very close to, very close to the
We're at
4th.
least four days ahead of her schedule.
9 plus 35,
We've done, yeah, we did the math.
It's
That's why
31
you're-
days, so that's good
Yeah.
in March, so it's like the 5th.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem with scheduling a meeting. I guess it's really my hope, that was kind of the point of
Last
doing
resort.
the two of them in a Monday, that we would need to, but I don't mind scheduling another meeting.
Hopefully it'll work out, yes.
We may not need it,
You
but
could
it
also
would
call it
serve.
off on
We could
Monday
also-
if we don't
But we
need
could
it.
also, if we post,
Add one.
because we usually do Thursdays anyways, if we post Tuesday, that's okay. If we post before 3 o'clock Tuesday, we can have a Thursday 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
With the idea that is just for any very last minute change.
Oh, well, no, but if everything's done Monday, then we don't need it, so
We
why
don't
don't we
need
just?
it,
so-
right.
So I think.
Yeah,
I
hopefully
may
we'll
have a problem with Thursday.
You what?
I may have a problem with Thursday.
I won't be here.
I gotta be in
Thursday.
Boston, and I'm not sure I can get back by 3.
That's the advantage of talking about it now, is when, if we're gonna have it, who can make what when.
Yeah, we fly out to Nashville on 12 on Thursday. Or we leave for the airport at 12.
Is this a pleasure?
We cheer competition.
Oh, fun, that's a nice spot.
So I don't know, probably a little above.
Your daughter.
Yes, not me.
You'll be honky tonkin'. Line dancing.
Shining my boots.
Is Wednesday's that good for you?
Well, it's, I mean, whatever. It's not just
That gets here, yeah.
structure of my personality, I just like the ideas of having certain things on the same time. It
I
helps
understand, yeah.
the public know, it helps people know, but.
Well, you can do it Thursday and I'll try to get here.
Lynn's not here.
But the,
Oh, that's right.
No, this is crunch time, it's the more that it's very, very valuable to have everybody here.
Kelly coming back? Okay, so when, can you do Wednesday afternoon? Can you do Wednesday afternoon? Can you do Wednesday afternoon?
Can I do which?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
Are you gonna start at 3 or maybe earlier?
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm doing 24 hours a day on this. After the kitchen.
Would be better if we do it later.
No, 3 o'clock. Oh, so I guess we don't need to get, can you post?
Yep.
Again, just, a generic warrant. Okay, so, let's all make sure on Monday we confirm whether we need it or not.
So that's the 27th.
Wednesday, the 27th, 3 p.m.
This combines two things, this combines the percent enrollment, that's why this number's lower. This is Topsfield's share, but the overall budget went up, what, correct? Or maybe less, I don't know.
All right.
Finally ended up with.
So, I don't mean this in a sarcastic way, but why do we
This
switch
is
to
underfunding our education, no.
which one are we doing?
One of them is from Dick, that's his changes. The other one is a hard copy of what's already on the board doc, so you don't necessarily need a hard copy.
But some
don't
of
know.
Dick's have been incorporated and some haven't.
Just like words here and there,
Only
anything,
words.
only
Oh, yeah.
words and things like that, if anything was rewritten, no.
Alright, so we
It's
were
on board
working
docs,
for
so
them
you
all,
can look at board docs.
irrespective of where it is. We should have one more that was as organized as possible for today. So which one are we using, the black one or the green one?
The black one.
Dick, if we go to an article and you have something that you want in it, then please speak up, all right? Try and get these
And
as
the black
close-
one is the one that's on board doc, right?
Yes.
close to final as possible.
Can I just mention one item that will be dependent upon what happens with the school meeting tomorrow, is that the numbering, if there's a decision by this board to add a warrant article for school technology, my assumption has been that is not in here. So if we add a new article, not in place of something else, but if we add something new, then the numbering will go up. And that's why after tomorrow, there'll be another version, an update based on what happens tomorrow, and any further discussion at the school committee. So just a caution about the numbering, don't get too hung up on.
That's fine,
The
it's just,
number.
it's for Monday when it needs to be.
Right.
written.
We could potentially make a decision today,
No,
to
no,
add.
Because we're
not
not discussing
today.
it today.
Because it's school,
Yeah.
is that why? Okay,
Mhm.
all right, okay.
Okay, Article first, reports. This is the way we always do it.
Which one? Oh, you're going by the paper one?
I'm doing the one that says first. So this is 2.3. Hopefully the board
It's
docs
one
one also says
ST
first
to
and.
the novices in the room.
Good.
2.3.
Article
That's the way
first.
we've always done that one.
Oh, 2.
2.3.
This is literally a matter of life and death. Give me 2 seconds.
Matter of life and death.
If you will, one of the ways.
You better really answer.
Dropping off a paper bag with cash legitimately or something. Okay, Article first. My question, if I may, I don't know how to turn that off. My question is, even if there are articles, is this still the way warrant appears? Because like I know
Yes.
one article, it's gonna be, one report that's gonna be done.
It's still gonna look exactly the same.
It's not gonna list it even though.
No.
Okay, fine.
We never do listen, do
Traditionally,
we?
we don't.
Never listen.
We don't.
That's fine. Alright, everybody, again, we're not voting. Anybody have any comments or changes or thoughts? If I turn it off, then I don't have the sound. I can turn down the sound. I know how to do that. Thank you. Okay, we got it. Anybody have any comments, revisions, anything to articles first?
Nope.
All right. Moving right along. Article second, so the amount, are these amounts to be confirmed by our
With the town accountant and the FinCom, once they make their final votes, and of course, this also depends on tomorrow's discussion and whether or not there needs to be all the contingency language for an override and yada yada.
But that wouldn't affect this one.
It would affect the motion,
On two?
yeah, oh no, Article 3rd.
Oh,
We're
on-
on
We're on
Article
We're
3rd.
still on two,
No,
I'm sorry.
on two.
Oh, we're still
We're
on
on
2. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was jumping ahead. Sorry. This is just pretty straightforward. It's just the offset for the budget.
How does it do it? I don't.
So could I just understand then, why is it FY '20? That was a question I had. Why is the cable fund FY '20 operations and we're
I'm
taking it out of
gonna take
FY
that out.
'20?
Yes. Well, it's for, I'm gonna take out the,
It's
I should
for.
take out the
Oh, it's-
parentheses. It's
Everything is
for.
for, everything
Yes.
here is for.
It's to offset the appropriation in Article 3rd. So we're taking money from the PEG fund.
Yes, yes.
And we're transferring in
Yeah.
so that the general fund can be used to
Right.
fund the
But
entire.
we're not taking it out of some kind of a FY, you're gonna take all those words out?
Yes,
is
I'm
the
gonna
answer.
take out the parentheses.
Thank you.
Yes.
Everything
No.
else, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Anything else from anyone on articles? Those amounts, they should be what they are, but
They are what they are, yes. And they're straightforward. And the 49 was voted by the FinCom last night, so there's no question.
I keep asking him how much money's in that big fund, do you know how much money is?
The last time, and I asked to run the report, I haven't gotten it yet. I think after we did the last allocation, there was probably 40,000, but we're getting quarterly payments
Yeah.
of revenue from Comcast on it. So usually we'll make a payment and then money will come in.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get a final report after we get the warrant settled, but so that we can answer that question before, after we go to print.
Could I get a plug in here for something that I talked about a year ago at the polls? You would not have to ask that question if we had gone to using Munis's open gov, if you would, be putting all the data up. It would be available to you and me and everyone else, all of that type of data. So I'm just gonna put a plug in for us to, in the future, please consider moving that piece of software Munis in, which takes very little effort on our part. And once we have it up and running, it just runs and we don't have to do anything.
We're already paying for
Next.
it, Dick?
Please?
We're already paying for the
No,
module?
no.
We'd have to buy the module open.
We have to, we'd have, it's not OpenGov, it's their, I'm sorry, I don't have the name in front of me, but it's a very standard one. Anybody wants to look at it, for example, Linfield's using it, you can see all the stuff that they do. I have a couple of other places that are using it. But you get a demo yourself if you just go to some.
Okay, maybe later I can just get the name from you of what,
I will
Module.
put it in an email to everyone. Thank you, I will do that. Thank you, sorry, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Next.
No, the time's right, but I'm sorry, but how does that affect the warrant?
Well, it affects Boyd's ability to get the answer to
Well,
the
yeah.
question.
Oh,
what's in the
I thought you
pay
took
fund.
it Article 3.
No.
No, sorry.
Nope.
Nope, that's totally fine. Article 3rd. I don't wanna dive too far into 2.5 things, we're gonna do that tomorrow.
Right.
Yep,
But I just wanna mention in passing, depending on if and how one is structured, there is a possibility that it comes into Article 3 by saying a percentage of or an amount of which would be funded by Prop 2.5 override and blah, 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 blah. So this is before that's contemplated,
Yeah. This assumes there's no override language.
or no override language related to Article 3.
Yes.
So in that context, anybody have any questions, changes, comments? No?
Not me.
no, because it needs work if something happens here.
Yep. Article 4th, water. That's your specialty, Boyd, isn't it? We can drink it. Shouldn't we have something here that now we can drink it?
I would
Pass out
ask,
free samples?
Water.
Well, I'm not much of an
Bottled
expert on the
water?
water system, but I did have a conversation with Greg this morning about the way it's working, and I don't know anything about their budget, of course, because that's not my part.
This was approved by the FinCom last night. All the numbers in the warrant were actually right on.
Mhm.
I would ask that in the budget itself, it changes the words indirect costs to lowercase except for the first letter.
That's right.
Mhm.
You got that?
Yeah.
So, that's the second change so far, right? The cross out back in the second. Anything else on the floor? Masconomet, Article 5.
Okay. On Masconomet, this has a long, this is down to the explanation I'm not for already. Maybe we just, is there any problem? Let's, after, look at the
Go ahead,
first
you're
part.
right, go ahead.
Okay, the explanation. Our typical explanation for that is the first sentence. That's essentially a copy of what we've always said. The issue with the remaining is it is impossible for the average resident to reconcile the numbers that are here, using the numbers that are here, to reconcile the numbers that are there. And I think it's just very confusing. It's only a very small, it's a part of the overall Masconomet, but it's just confusing. You cannot derive from 1.7 or 26.5. You can't derive the numbers. So my recommendation is that we delete after the first, just leave the first sentences as it's always been in the past, and delete the remainder of it.
You don't think it makes any sense to put the last sentence in there?
You can put it in there, but it's somewhat out of the blue, and it's not really, it's representative of our assessment, which should raise people's things saying, oh, well, where are we using that money that we're saving at Masconomet?
Mhm.
And I don't think you want to have that question asked.
Mhm.
Can I just ask if the 26.5% of the students are Topsfield, is our share 26.5% of 37 million?
No, because this is the assessment, that's what I'm
Because it
saying.
is
If you
not
take
adding.
26.5
It's not adding, yeah,
times 37, you don't come up with
You
the
come to
number.
9.
because there's a different allocation for the debt
Yeah,
versus
it's
the
a more
operating
appropriate.
budget.
Okay.
And, well, no, not just that,
There's-
but you have to take out their expected revenues from things
Right.
like regional transportation, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then you start to drive the assessment. And the assessment is based on the number of students. This, I believe, is a problem. I can go back and check,
No, it's 482.
but
I got that straight from the mouse.
but there's two numbers. If somebody goes into their enrollment numbers, the enrollment is there's an official number on October. It has to be this way, and it's good. It's written in the agreement, in the regional agreement. That is the number of students on October 1st of the year coming. So, but then there's another one that if you start going into the numbers is the enrollment that they're dealing with, and they're different. It's asking for trouble. I can tell you it's asking for trouble. It's just,
It's a pretty
the details are too
complicated
much.
subject.
The details are too
I
much.
think the
and we've
number
always
that
left it
would
out.
be of interest to people would be, what kind of an increase is 37 million over the prior year?
That would be a very interesting thing, but we've never, that's 38%, 3.8%. But I don't think, again, I would say, I would try to stay out of it, because there's so many, so you put 3.8% down, I just think, I don't think it's worth it. We haven't put it in the past, you just have to dig into the Masconomet numbers, or ask the questions on the town meeting floor. This is something to help people.
Why did you feel compelled to put it in there?
I don't know if it was a collection from prior year. I know that one of the other articles, I was asked to put the number of enrollment into, say, the Essex
the
North Shore.
North Shore, we put it in.
So that's one of the reasons I added it up here, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me, I don't really care, I just didn't want to construct it for informational purposes and then have people wonder why we're taking it out with other discussion.
So Dick, what's your suggestions, deleting it starting where?
He wants to take this all.
Just the first sentence, which is what
leave
we
the
always
first
had from
sentence.
Masconomet.
That's all he wants.
This article approves the 2000 assessment for operations, maintenance, and debt service of Masconomet.
I would agree, because it doesn't really address, by saying 482 students, it's like, well, is that up or down? you know, are we losing students, are we
There's
going
no
up?
context.
You know, how much is it versus last year? There are a lot of questions that are just
Write a
kind of
book.
basic that, yeah.
You can write a book.
And they have,
It's not
right?
worth
The
it.
whole big binder
That's
from
right. It's good, well put.
Masco. I mean, I'm fine
Okay.
taking it out, I
So
just
that's my
didn't wanna
suggestion.
take it out randomly if
Yep.
there was any, interest in keeping
I
any
don't-
of the information in there, it's up to the
Okay,
board.
so for, again, all this is subject to our formal votes on Monday, so for now, just one sentence and the rest is,
Okay.
no
Yeah, right.
change.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I have a comment on the next one, but we can.
Masco Regional Schools Stabilization.
Do you want me to make a?
So this is the, okay. Again, I'm suggesting some changes to make it easier. I would have this, and if you see the markup, it's difficult. Let me read as I would leave it. This article would approve the Masconomet Regional School District's request for $450,000 to be added to the district stabilization fund, period. Topsfield's share of this request would be $119,250.
Period,
Okay?
period.
Period. I think that, yeah, we get some ellipses in here and things like that. I
Okay,
think
well, can I
that's my
make a
recommended
note?
change.
I was contacted by, Zilly, who said, and this is why, I didn't change, I didn't need to keep this in here. She said that they were looking for some additional information, and she specifically said, provided all three communities approve this article by. I left it sort of there because it's sort of questionable to me as to, what I replied to her was, I didn't see anything formal from Sue Gibbons, so that's why I didn't work anything in, I just worked on this first sentence on my own. So there's a question as to what exactly they're requesting, but then the next question is, who has, you know, I think the board really just decides what the summary question is. So it doesn't matter to me, I just wanna let you know that there's even some question about the wording from, on the Masco side, and I wanna avoid any, confusion. Last year, there was some confusion with regard to what it says in here and who gets to write it. Is it Masco, is it the board, is it a little bit of both?
Well, the board that gets to write it, that's not an issue. But we're willing to listen to everything they say. But I agree with you, don't put things in here that could be controversial.
In this black copy, you've already incorporated Dick's comments.
Yeah, basically,
some
yeah, it's
of
true,
them.
yes.
It's already
Oh, I'm
done.
sorry, yeah, it's already.
It's already done, really.
You already
Some of them.
included the changes
What
that
I
I
was,
just said.
what I was
I didn't
suggesting,
realize.
what I suggested, this article approves a request from the Masco Regional District for a total of $450,000 to be added to the district stabilization fund. Topsfield share of the request is $119,250.
Excellent. The only difference from what I read was which tense it's in.
It's the
That's-
tense, and I'm keeping
sorry,
all the
I got it,
tenses
okay.
consistent.
I didn't realize that you had picked up my stuff when I.
Are you deleting the last sentence?
I'm gonna delete, my recommendation is we leave it as is, and I'll just say that the board wanted
I'm
to
not
keep
sure
it
what
as simple
as,
as possible.
what as is. Are you
In the black
leaving-
copy?
Are you
The
leaving?
italics, and then chop off.
Only what's in the
Provided-
italics, right? The rest of it gets scratched, right?
Yes,
That's right.
provided all three communities.
It ends at,
That's
it ends
deleted,
at 250.
Provided all the community.
I'm taking that out, that was what Zilli was suggesting. but-
So that the last thing that appears is 119,250
Yes.
period.
That's
Period.
right.
Got it.
That's the way it works with the operating budget as well, right? Providing
No,
that,
2 out of 3.
oh, and this one is three,
It's
all
like capital.
three?
They need all three for this one.
And that's why that's.
Because there's nothing in the regional agreement to deal with this. If everybody agrees, then we go forward. If they don't, it's a dispute, but there's no way to reasonably, in agreement, prove that you can do that.
Do you think that's worthwhile letting people know it all? I think people feel,
I
like with the
think-
Masco budget,
Yeah,
2 out of 3, it's always approved. This one is 3 out of 3.
I think it leaves it up to the FinCom to point that out, and if there's any, it's not that we're trying to hide it from anybody, but get some questions in there. I'm willing to put in something about the 3 and all that, but I think it's
I think
asking for trouble.
they could just speak to it. I think that's worthwhile showing people, that all 3 towns have to approve it for it to move forward.
They typically will do that during their
So,
motion.
okay,
I
so,
would think,
So it ends with the number and the 250.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
right, yeah.
Article 7.
this article requires approval of all three communities, yes, something, this article requires approval of, you can't say just all three communities, it has to say,
The communities.
Wait a minute.
of
She's still on
Boxford,
six.
Topsfield,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
and
still
Middleton.
trying to.
I thought you
present that
said you
last.
wanted it deleted.
Say again?
I thought you wanted it deleted.
I thought you were saying put it back in.
Oh,
No, no, no.
I'm
You won the
fine.
battle, stop fighting.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if they speak to it, that's fine, I just think it's
Next.
information.
Article
Next.
7. Stay with me, people.
Whoops.
Thank you, Dick.
Article
Sure.
7, Essex, what used to be Aggie. We apparently, for years, we had, like, no one, and we had to pay for 5 kids, because we had less than 5 kids. I guess
Yeah,
people
2.
are taking,
Yeah, that's right.
we have 18 students,
Yeah.
Article 7 is okay?
any comments, revisions, anything on 7? Okay, we got this note, the amount of subject, that's a note to ourselves.
I had this in there last year. I think it was sort of segregated a little bit. I combined it. But I think between now and town meeting, sometimes that amount will go down or be tweaked. And that's why I had the note, and I remember having it last year. I could go either way. The intent is that if there was a change, that people aren't surprised by that.
Where are you talking about? What-
The very
The
end
last
of
Oh, the
one.
very end, yeah.
In like a-
This amount is subject to change. Draft motion is based on preliminary assessment as of February 12th.
Is anything else in this document subject to change prior to the meeting?
After we vote, the
Mail
motions
this?
are always subject to change.
So I'm wondering why we should mention it here if there are other things within the document that might also change?
I don't know, it's a preference question, it doesn't really.
What if you just
I
started?
think you're
with-
right.
What if you just started with the draft motion is based on, so you get rid of the subject to change and you just tell them it's based on?
Well, okay. Draft motion is based on the preliminary assessment as of February 12th,
I don't think you even need
2019.
parentheses then, you just.
Okay, just leave it.
Take out the first,
Yep, okay.
the subject is, the amount is subject to change.
So now
Yep.
we have no parentheses, we have draft motion, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with like little, this is slightly different, I don't have a preference, I just wanted to point out that consent agenda 1 equals articles 8 through 14. That was just something that's new, but someone suggested that we would divide it out.
In other words, this is the beginning of the
Yes,
consent agenda.
yeah.
Here's a really minute thing, but it's just visual.
Yeah.
The dash between the 8th and the 14th, doesn't it look like there's a space
Yes,
missing, but I don't know if
it
there really
does. It's
is,
just
but
the
There's
lettering.
no way of getting
TH,
it's
we can
italics.
space the
Because the
14.
TH is
You
not-
could put one on each side of it in there or something.
Yeah,
Or could we simply do, I like the idea of putting the consent agenda in there clearly,
how about if we took
but I
out the
think if we
caps?
take the numbers out, it's almost safer, and maybe,
Oh, I see, yeah.
because if you start making changes with numbers or
Just
something
call
else
it
gets
consent
pulled around.
agenda 1.
So I would
Okay.
leave it as consent agenda 1, and it's really nice to break it out, all of a sudden somebody sees
Yeah.
that it's different, but to try to put the articles in there,
Okay,
I don't think it is,
That creates a potential problem.
especially if we have to renumber anything. Minor detail, do you want a 1 or O-N-E? I'm thinking O-N-E because everything else is so fancy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
No objections? Okay,
O-N-E?
yes.
Unless it's gonna get confused with the article.
I or
oh,
1.
oh, yeah.
Consent
First,
agenda
okay.
1. The rest are pretty straightforward.
Well, we got an asterisk next to each one in one, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Article 8, any comments?
Nope, doesn't sound like it.
9? Am I supposed to do
Pretty
the consent
straightforward.
agenda on this, and say any changes on 8 through 14? No? You're free to do it. Article 9?
Straightforward.
Emerson Field, Tim?
So you put all my changes in Emerson Field, I guess?
I can't remember, there was just.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
like
there
it.
was, yeah, there was just small.
I think you got them all.
We did.
11th? Just Just out of curiosity, is this the same amount as last year, or did it go up?
No, same,
Same.
yeah.
12th?
I have to say, Dick, I was very disappointed that you didn't point out that I left out the F in 12.
Oh, I didn't go through the numbers yet. I usually pull the numbers
Well, I
after
beat you
after you
to
get
the
them,
punch.
after you get them,
I took
after you
away,
get
took
them set up as article numbers, and I just
the
do
wind
a,
out of your
a poll,
sails.
and I can see right down through all of them.
I was like, yes!
Senior care is
Good
clean.
job, you got it.
13,
13th, so, I don't, let me look at, I don't know which things you have accepted, so that's why I'm, this, 13th, town facilities, right? This is the way I would have it read. This article funds capital needs, facility repairs, and emergency situations that arise during the fiscal year. For example, one facility repairs an estimated $12,000 for phase 1 of the plumbing improvements for the Topsfield Police Station, which has a total project estimate of $60,000. That second sentence is a long one. I'm not sure that it's necessary, but I think just kind of letting people know that this is both essentially capital needs and facilities repairs and emergency situations. I think that's the key element of what that says.
So really, if you went to Article 13, down at in the italics,
Yeah, this is only
and took
italics.
out as well as $12,000 for phase 1 of plumbing improvements at the top of this place, ended after needs of the period, you basically got what you said.
I think so. We're not, yeah, I'm not trying to figure out what the 25,000 and all that, and I'm not trying to tie it down to the
Well, let's
the
take
12,000.
let's
But I
take
leave it
out-
as is estimated at 12,000. You know, it gives us flexibility, but it gives somebody an idea of what we're talking about, in this case, a capital need versus a facility repair need, or is that, people can decide which they think it is at that point. But it also, since we talk about it as a phase 1 in the one that was here, I said, if you talk about phase 1, you ought to tell them what the rest of it is. I'm not telling them how many phases there are, I'm giving what the estimated
Just
total
simplify
is.
it by just saying as
I
well
would-
as plumbing improvements at the Topsfield Police Station.
That's okay too. That would be fine too.
So you make
Just
it-
take all the numbers out, that's good.
Yeah.
no,
That's
we're gonna
good.
just make the 25 to 37. And then do what Dick's saying.
Yeah, as well as
Yeah.
plumbing improvements
Don't
at the Topsfield.
specify that
The
project.
the amount, the 37 is obvious because that's what you vote for up there.
So these funds allocate funding for general facility repairs and maintenance needs, period?
Well, it doesn't
I don't-
allocate.
Well, that's an example, see, that's a problem, because some of it you refer to as capital. I would think we ought to take the whole sentence out. I like it better without all of
Okay,
it.
just
the first
sentence one?
sentence. This
That's all
article,
that's
Yeah,
necessary.
the
Funds
article
the capital
calls into
needs.
question the other specific articles that are
That's good.
dedicated just to capital,
Right,
why that would be included in
so
here. I
just keep
think
the first
facility
sentence.
repair and maintenance.
First sentence.
first
only.
sentence, right?
Okay,
And I like it.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
that part of it I'm fine with. Not a big deal, but I don't really like the word choice in emergency situations. It evokes, this money doesn't go to somebody has a heart attack, or
Oh, the word emergency, thank you.
the article funds capital needs, facilities, even emer.
Facility repairs.
Emergency
Unanticipated,
repairs?
unanticipated would be the, unanticipated situations. How's
And
that?
that's, because then they're gonna think it's a reserve.
Unanticipated.
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
sentence
no.
above it,
Unexpected,
the paragraph above it says what it is, to
Yeah.
fund
Yeah.
facility repair
Yeah.
and maintenance.
yeah.
Can we just say capital needs and facility repairs, that cover it?
Yeah,
Yes,
that arise during the fiscal year?
yes.
So what are capital needs?
Repairs, maintenance,
Somebody could call,
I could take out capital.
the
But then
renovation of
what's
a
it called?
plumbing project a capital. It's $60,000 over 5, I mean, that's a, it's a funny thing to mix, capital needs and that, but sometimes capital can be a question as to what is or is not capital. If it's a major
How about
renovation, is it capital?
This article funds facility repairs
Maintenance.
and maintenance
Yeah, I like that, because that's what your paragraph above it says.
Yeah.
And then there's no question. People are gonna go, okay, repairs and maintenance, everyone has to do that, and you never know what they're gonna be.
Throwing the
During
word
the
town
fiscal
at the
year.
beginning, then you're, this article funds town facility repairs and maintenance.
Town facility repairs and maintenance
Oh, it says facility.
during the fiscal year.
Yeah, that's right, I think. Everybody okay with that?
It's okay with me.
Good. Policia cruiser.
Is it 25 and 12 pulled out, the other sentences?
Anybody have anything on this?
Where are we now, on the police cruiser?
Yeah,
14.
14.
So, did you change anything?
No, not yet.
I don't think so.
Hasn't been changed.
Okay, so, let me see what I
I
have.
mean, I was just going on last
Okay.
year's wording and then added a sentence that.
So,
Model.
yeah, okay, let me just try to remember. This article allows the town to continue to its annual replacement schedule of frontline police cruisers on a rotating basis. Beginning in fiscal year 2020, the standard police cruiser is a newly modified Ford Explorer SUV model. The base cost of this new police model is higher than the previous police cruisers, and the change in base design has increased the cost of outfitting and equipping the new cruiser. So I think it's important to get that concept across, because somebody's reading this on the third week of April before the town meeting, and they remember that's $40,000 for a cruiser, and this one is 60. What the heck's going on?
It
So-
came up last night.
Yeah, so I think something of that wording, I think, gets the major point across of what's happening here. With this, the main thing we're trying to address is, in my mind, is that this is a lot more than we're used to. It's not a different kind of cruiser, it's not a special kind of cruiser or anything else, it's the new base and all of that. And we were told that there's two elements to it. The vehicle itself is more expensive, but we can't bring this stuff across. So that's why I put that wording as that. Is that okay?
I don't have a problem with it.
You don't like putting in there, explaining the regular fleet rotation, why we do that?
I think that, well, the beginning says, this
It just says
this
that
allows
we
us to
do.
continue, this allows the town to continue its annual replacement schedule of frontline police. It says that, right? What is-
On a rotating basis.
Yeah,
On a rotating
there's
basis.
no explanation of why.
Well,
Well, then he
you go
goes
into-
down in the middle where it says, he starts out beginning in fiscal 2020.
Yeah.
The standard police price was
So that addressed the increased cost. That middle sentence addresses why we're doing this regular rotation. And people may know already, but
Yeah, I think that the assumption here is that that's like repeating, quote, what people know, whether, I mean, this doesn't take away from the FinCom standing up and recommending positive action and and going through these same things. The idea is that somebody, either at town meeting, sitting right there, reading before they start the meeting or whatever, or even here, gets the meat of what's probably on their mind. Why is this thing so expensive?
no, I totally agree with you on the
Oh,
cost. It's the middle sentence. I'm saying, should we be pulling out? You pulled it out, the statement that said why we're rotating on a regular basis.
And I think that that's what people tend to know, and to try, get
we
into a
think
lot of
they do.
details. I mean, a lot of people have
we've been
questions about it.
rotating, we've been doing it on a rotating basis.
So everyone at town
20
meeting
years.
is familiar with it.
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, I can make this work, so.
Okay, and the only thing I realized on mine, I left it as it was, it should be a lower T for town, to see if excuse me.
Well, it's capital
This guy
everywhere.
allowed the
Towns.
town, T-O,
That's
small
capital
T-O.
everywhere.
It's
It's
capital everywhere else.
What's that?
It's
Capital in the whole warrant.
Yeah.
It's
town,
capital? Oh, okay.
Everywhere, yeah.
We've done
so
it everywhere? Oh, oops, sorry, okay.
You were consistent.
We consistent, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all right, yeah, sorry.
Okay, we okay on the cruiser?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, water improvements, Article 50.
I have to double double check on that 17, it's $100,000 and 17. I want to check the 17 with Greg, so I kept that highlighted, I'll check that after
So
this
I,
meeting.
yeah.
It's either $100,000 or $17 too, but the two numbers he gave me previously added up to $100,017. That's where that number came from. But then we were told to, that it's all coming from retained earnings, so I took out the two pieces and 17 was left over. So just as a note, I have to just clarify, is it
Mhm.
$17 or not?
Yeah, it needs, I agree that it needs to come out. So on 15, this is just for absolute consistency, since we're at that. In the warrant part itself, the second line from the bottom ends with projects and including all. Projects with a semicolon, not a comma, because that'll also match then what we have in the recommendation. But it's the right thing is to have a semicolon there.
After system projects or costs, or two semicolons?
This is in the warrant part.
Yeah,
The last line that you can read, that ends, it ends with all and including all. You see that? It's the fourth sentence. This is
Yeah,
on
and including
This is
all.
15.
The article?
yeah,
15. The fourth line down from the top, at the
Yeah.
end of it,
Yeah,
says projects and including all. You see that?
yes,
The only thing is change the comma to a semicolon.
oh, I see.
Am I doing that throughout the entire document?
No.
I don't
Well,
know.
it is the way it is in the recommendation. And related, I remember seeing it in the, where is
No,
that?
I've
Yeah,
got-
there it is. It's-
There were a ton of places where there was either commas or semicolons, and I just changed everything to commas. In fact, it
Well,
was
you
a
didn't
comma, and then you
It's not
updated it
changed
to
here. It's not
semicolon.
changed in the rec, for example.
Well, I didn't change it here because I wanted to be consistent, so I left it as a comma. So I don't care.
No, I'm saying in the recommendation, it's a semicolon. So I'm just making what's in the recommendation the same
Oh, I
in
see.
this.
Okay,
Okay, they're the same,
okay.
and it's an appropriate
And further
place,
because- Okay,
and it's an
further.
appropriate place to put the semicolon.
Okay, so you just want to do a semicolon up above too?
Just the semicolon, the only change that I've talked about so far is in the warrant part of it.
Yep, okay, I
To
got
put
it.
a semicolon after products
Okay,
instead of a comma.
got it.
Yes, somehow I didn't talk with Greg about that. I knew it was so obvious. That you're gonna get it down to 0, If it's not down to 0, we should talk about it. There should be 100,000 period. It's just very confusing and it'll create problems on the whole why it's an odd number. I agree with you. Now, on the recommendation though, the recommendation should end with the word costs. It's a semicolon, just change that to a period, and delete and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen, the advice board. That was what we put in for the water treatment plant. It was a $10 million project, and we wanted to give a lot of flexibility to it. This, for example, is not a project. It's for different things at different times, so it's even incongruous to put as necessary to carry out this project. But anyway, I talked with Greg and he agreed, oh yeah, I just copied it from, yes, take that out, and you'll find out that we took it out of the other ones also.
Okay, but he didn't tell me that, and I reviewed it with town council, and they didn't find any problem with it, so it's really just, it doesn't matter to me, I don't wanna,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna die on this
If
hill,
council
but
wants
town
to-
council
Council wants to
said
look
it's-
at it again, they can.
if there's no harm
It's
in
not
leaving
that
it.
there's something,
It's not a legal issue.
it's not a legal issue, it's
No,
right.
it's just building in extra flexibility, so if you want me to take it out, I'll take it out, I just didn't want a unit.
Yes,
I didn't
please.
wanna, well, there's other members of the board.
I don't have
Does
any
it matter?
problem doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
It
which
actually
case
is-
it gets
actually-
rid of the
It actually is a
semicolon.
legal issue in my view.
It becomes a
I would say
review.
because it's, what it does is it just gives.
Flexibility
is an umbrella
and
the word?
ability.
Yeah, it's a safety net.
So you don't have to
To
call a
give
new town
something
meeting
as
to
a
give
just-
authorization to the Board of Selectmen and the Water Commissioners to take any other thing that we might not have specifically authorized with the
It's just,
language.
if I can extrapolate to some extent, it's just generally a good drafting practice. these type of things, they have that type of leeway. It's not intended for them to do anything outside the scope.
You don't think that covers it right there?
This is,
He's talking about taking that out.
yeah.
Doesn't
no,
that cover it?
Not necessarily, I mean, yeah,
And all incidental and related expenses.
I just don't.
Believe me, it covers it. We just added that wording for the $10 million one. I said,
yeah,
you
but
gotta
so
have enough in
It
there.
does absolutely, I don't know if it.
We don't do it
does-
for other
It
projects.
does absolutely nothing negative, and it provides some leeway. It's protective by having it be both, number one, it's us that gets to do it. It's the Board of Selectmen, and it's with the advice of the, I have to lead with Kelly on this.
Do you want to just say to carry out these projects, since it does say projects in the first part? Because you've got multiple
Oh, I don't
projects.
care about that, that's fine.
Because Dick was saying this
Oh, no,
project.
no, that's fine, that's totally fine. Once you carry this out, you don't have to use the word project.
Well, I don't think it's a big deal if you leave it in or take it out.
Was it, this project was your concern, Dick, versus up
No,
above it says
no,
project?
no.
I would defer to my.
I would take it out of
legal
all
friend here.
3 of them. 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done any. Why don't we leave it, and if Dick still feels strongly on Monday night, we can vote on it. So if it's,
Yeah, leave in for now.
I'll leave it.
if it's any help, as Lynn's pointed out, to say projects instead of project, that's absolutely fine.
We have exactly the same issue on 16.
So, I'm gonna say just, I'm gonna say, I think, as chair, that just since we don't have a consensus, let's just leave it.
Leave 16
And if we
on.
can't, leave the 3 of them, if you have to change project to project, so 15, 16, and 17, and then if we can't reach
Just
consensus on
finishing
it, then
15
we'll
right
vote.
now,
Yeah.
page 6.
With the majority. Other than that, are there any issues on 16, it would be then, I believe? Let the minutes reflect that, so that when Spencer on the day after his birthday, has been kind enough to
Not because I was hungry.
Kelly, yes,
You took the word right out of my mouth.
we were thinking about, you gotta
Yeah.
say it.
As we read 2.3, how can we tell what changes you've made to it? There's no way for us to quickly.
Well, this is where
eyeball
you
it,
have to
right?
trust me, and I'm explaining them to you at the meeting. So you're gonna
No,
have
I'm
to take
thinking-
a
I'm
legal
okay.
leave here.
I'm just trying to figure out if.
I'm comparing the two, and if I,
Yeah, okay. But, yeah, that's a good way to do it. That's all we're doing. Okay, good.
Okay, so we're in the middle of the 3 wars, we're in 16, I think.
16 we're gonna leave alone, right?
Yeah, and any
For now.
changes besides
Yeah.
that one sentence? Okay, 17, same thing, any changes besides that one sentence that we're gonna leave for now?
Same subject, 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're fine, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we're through that, end of consent agenda.
Is it,
Is it agenda? Yeah, because it's out, what's the singular,
Yeah.
it's plural of agenda?
yeah, so it's 12,
Agenda.
so it's 12.
Agenda, but I only have 3 of them.
It's a spelling quiz.
Is it
for
agenda plural,
everyone.
is agenda plural or singular?
Heidi,
Yeah.
I should know.
is agenda, is the word agenda plural or singular?
Singular.
Both. Singular.
I think it might be both.
You might be right.
It's
All right.
plural.
Agenda.
Plural.
It's plural?
So what is
It's plural.
agenda?
Agenda,
It's the plural.
agendum,
Perfect. Agendum is the singular?
and
Yeah, that way.
agenda is plural.
Thank you, Libby.
As an alumnum of a college.
So on 18, here we go.
All right, 18
18.
in Latin or?
Oh, okay, not to be confusing here, agenda is the plural of the Latin agendum,
Dumb, yeah.
and is used today in the sense of a plan or list to be acted upon. In that sense, it is treated as a singular noun. Its plural is usually agendas.
Agendas.
Ooh, we're not doing that.
Did I just say that? Agenda.
Well, revision is.
That's
Agendas
only-
is plural,
That's
and
only-
they say agenda is singular, but agenda is the Latin
Yeah,
Agenda.
I'll be sure to.
Agenda,
come to
agenda
the
is
and conjugate.
plural for agenda.
Yeah.
Do you only conjugate verbs like?
I don't think we do that anymore, do we?
Well, I don't know.
I used to
do it
have
all
to
the
do
time
that.
in my
Do you want me
school.
to-
We used to have to do that.
Past blue perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
Miriam desktop reference
Yeah, let's
set.
flash them before my eyes here. Where are we? Highway?
Yeah,
Hey, Article 18,
18.
highway front loader.
So was that agenda or agenda?
Believe it.
Agenda.
Agendas and
Agendas.
plural.
Yeah, we're not doing the weird one that nobody will.
nothing, no comment on 18.
We don't want to.
Anybody else on 18?
Any comment? Dick didn't make any.
No, no.
19.
I have a suggested change. One of the first things is, and Lynn, you can check this too, that I believe workstations is a single word these days.
I think
All
you're right.
Webster's dictionaries do not deal with it that way, but the
Updated.
new ones will
Yeah.
put workstation
Oh.
as a single word.
You know what, I updated
Right.
one in the explanation,
If I
but not
buy
extended.
one computer, that's a workstation?
It's a
It's a
No,
workstation.
but work and station are pushed
Oh,
together,
one
there's
more.
no space.
Oh, one-to-one word.
I totally.
One word.
that's not
Yeah.
missing.
So Dick,
Okay.
you know, like it's not
Agenda.
agenda, above, so I'll just
I
do it
really
up above.
didn't follow. Okay.
Station on.
Yeah, made no sense.
It was
That's
Workstation
absolutely
Like the
fine.
title is.
I
workstation.
corrected it in the explanation, but not up above, so I'm just.
Oh,
Anything else with
We can do it up
19?
there, we did it down there.
Actually, oh,
Anything else, Dick, on
okay,
19?
good.
We've got a ton.
Okay, now, okay, so we're, all agreed it's gonna be word, single word, okay.
Yeah.
So this is the way I suggest the explanation read. This article would fund the replacement of computer workstations in Town Hall, including upgrades to Windows 10 and Office 2019. All of the existing workstations are on Windows 7 or older, and more than 75% of the workstations are greater than 6 years old. The Microsoft Windows support for the existing systems ends next year, parentheses, January 2020. By the way, you asked me why we put both next year and January 2020? Because sometimes people read things and they see 2020 and they say, that's a long way away. So you tell them next year and then you tell them exactly when.
I don't have any trouble with the word.
I don't
That's
Well, this
fine.
is a really small thing, I admit, but why did you kill Microsoft up above, but then you said you left it in below? Shouldn't you either do it or don't do it? As you read it, you didn't say Microsoft Office, you just said Office, but then down below.
Yeah.
So either, I don't care which, but I think you should either put them both or don't. If you don't want to use the green.
No argument, no argument.
So put Microsoft before Windows because it's both Windows.
Or take it out, be consistent.
I'll just put in, I'll put in Dick's language,
Yeah,
and I'll
put-
add the word Microsoft before.
Yeah,
Microsoft
before
Windows
Windows,
and
yeah.
Office
Okay.
2019, we'll do it.
Thank you.
Article 20th. Article 20th. Fire vehicle.
Okay, yeah, on 20th, of course, I changed the reference here from a rescue vehicle to an ambulance. I mean, last night, we were talking ambulance, everything else. I don't think there's really a choice but to make this ambulance, because that's what it is. So, the title would change to fire ambulance replacement. The warrant would say equip used ambulance, including all incidental. And the recommendation would be a used ambulance, including all incidental expenses. And then on the explanation, I suggested that it would read as follows. This article funds the purchase of a used ambulance and equipment, including a power stretcher, Lucas system, and associated equipment necessary to outfit the unit for the fire department. The capital improvement plan previously listed this item as a new ambulance with $220,000. The fire chief updated that request and recommends a used vehicle as a backup to the town's primary ambulance vehicle. Currently, the town is borrowing a used ambulance as a backup for the primary ambulance. I'm not sure that we have to put all of that stuff in about the the old thing, 2020 and that, but, you know, $220,000 and that. But if we want to, I think that's the best wording, and I think it really captures what it is, and that's it.
What's the difference between a rescue vehicle and an ambulance?
None.
And, no, there's an
there
absolute
is a
difference between
difference.
the,